Welcome to the ER Break Room, the University of Florida Department of Emergency Medicine's podcast. In here, we get to know each other, celebrate our achievements, and highlight our initiatives. I'm your host, Michael Petrauskas. Hello, everyone. June has come again, the end of another academic year. Let's all take a moment to reflect upon our accomplishments, but also those things that we didn't quite get to this year. As a lifelong Chicago Cubs fan, the mantra applies. Just wait till next year. Now, on to highs of the month. Dr. Nick Maldonado was featured on the Internal Medicine Education podcast, Curbsiders Teach, where he gave a master class on how to teach evidence-based medicine to learners. Nick was an amazing guest, and the link is in the show notes if you want to learn some teaching pearls. Welcome to the department, Benice Ilagan. She is our new Administrative Services Manager and will be overseeing faculty and staff, recruitment, and retention. Welcome back, Dr. Deanna Mora, who completed her residency and ultrasound fellowship here at UF. Previously OPS, she is now full-time faculty and passionate about medical education. Dr. Torben Becker received the Clinical Excellence Award, and Dr. Nick Maldonado received the Rising Star Award at the departmental level at the Spring Faculty Assembly. Very well deserved, both of you. Dr. Torben Becker secured the SAEM Foundation Emerging Infectious Disease and Preparedness grant for his project, MotoMeds, Preventing Child Morbidity and Mortality from Infectious Diseases in Ghana. This is a $100,000 grant and a huge win for the children of Ghana. This is a Torben-themed podcast because Dr. Becker was also named Vice Chair and Chief of Critical Care Medicine for the Department of Emergency Medicine, as well as Executive Director of the UF Health Critical Care Organization. Congratulations on all of your accomplishments, Torben. In sad news, goodbye to Melanie Blackburn, Cassie Stitch, and Antoinette McFarland, who are moving on. You will be sorely missed. We are very happy for them, however, as Mel has taken the position of Vice Chair of Administration for UF's Department of Community Health and Family Medicine, and Cassie has moved back home to California to take a position in research at Stanford University. Best wishes to you three. Goodbye and thank you to our departing scribes, including Aquina, Abigail, Varsha, Alec, Ethan, Andrew, Isabel, Anna, Natalie, Jessica, Megan, Blaine, Kiera, Gedrick, Ria, and Camelia. You have lightened the load on our busy shifts and kept us company. Good luck. Your futures are bright. And then ending on a very high note, congratulations to our graduating students, residents, and fellows. It was an honor to work alongside you and contribute to your education, each in our own way. You are bound for greatness. Today's featured guest on the ER Break Room is Dr. Torben Becker, MD, PhD, and MBA. He is an associate professor in our department. He's the executive director of Emergency Medicine UF Health Critical Care Organization. He's the chief of the Division of Critical Care Medicine, the director of the section of Global Health, and he's also triple boarded in emergency medicine, critical care, and emergency medical services. Well, that is a mouthful, but welcome, Torben. Thank you for coming on and taking time to be part of the show today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Well, it definitely is your generosity that brings you here because you're a very busy individual, and there's so much to get into here. But first of all, before I even get going, congratulations! I mean, you get awards all the time, but most recently you got the Society of Academic Emergency Medicine Foundation grant for MotoMeds, which I'm sure we'll talk about, and then also you got our department's Clinical Excellence Award. So, congrats! That's amazing.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, well deserved. So again, and thinking about you, I really, and thinking about talking with you today, there's so much to your story, and I think what I want to really know and get into and dive into, and maybe other people as well, is the kind of your why and your how you even get at how you even do all these things. So I think that it's important to always get a sense of where people are from and kind of their upbringing and where they come from to get a sense of who they are. So tell me about yourself. You're not a Native American, am I right?
Correct. Yeah, I was born and raised in Germany. I grew up in a small town in the very northern part of Germany, close to the Baltic Sea, and spent essentially my entire childhood there until I was 18. And then I moved to the south of the country for medical school.
Oh, so you go right. So you go right from like high school into medical school. Is that how it works in Germany?
Correct. Yeah, there's three different levels of high school essentially. Only one allows you to go to university later on. You have to qualify for one of those tracks after primary school, so after fourth grade. So the kind of academic high school track is a little bit like a mixture of high school and college in the US. And then you go straight into, law school, medical school, whatever you're doing essentially.
Wow. So what I mean, I think I had a couple careers before even deciding to become a doctor. And how do you decide at such a young age that you want to be, when you want to do medicine or go to medical school? Where did that come from with you?
I think it came from kind of an early interest in medicine and emergency care. My father was a physician. His parents were both physicians. And so I got exposed to medicine at a fairly young age and got really interested around age 14 in kind of medicine and emergency care. And there's, one evening I ventured into my father's office and found this little pocketbook on emergency medicine. And I was, I think, 13 or 14 years old. And I read that, within a day or two, the entire book, and then kept asking my father questions about every single page in that book. And that's how I got kind of hooked onto medicine and emergency medicine in particular.
That's really cool. That's a neat story. I like that. Which I'm assuming your father was not an emergency doctor since you had an office.
Yeah, so he was a cardiologist. Yeah,
cardiologist. Okay, I got you. Okay, wow. And all right, so you make the decision, and is it? Do you have to test into these different high school tracks then?
It's based on your performance in especially fourth grade, essentially.
Holy cow! So basically, how you do as a fourth grader might determine your entire life's trajectory.
Yeah, you can switch or quote unquote kind of upgrade from one of the lower tier tracks to the higher track, but it's a lot more difficult. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so then you go off to and what's the name of your hometown? What's the name of the town?
It's a very kind of long and not very English sounding name, but the name is Bad Malente Grimsmühlen.
Wow, that's incredible. But then so that's northern Germany, and then you go to the southern Germany for medical school. But that's like almost like a combination, correct? Like we would do like an undergraduate, then medical school. This is all combined into one, correct?
Correct. Yeah. Correct.
And how many years was that?
6 years.
Okay, and then tell me about that. What was that experience like? And but wait a minute, the PhD component is that part of that as well, or is that after?
It depends. Typically, it is sort of in parallel to the later years of medical school, and then typically extends medical school by another. If you were not to do a PhD, compared to just quote unquote just getting an MD, it typically extends it by 1 to 3 years. In occasional circumstances or cases, it is possible to get everything done in kind of 6.5 years if you start very early on with your PhD. But that's not the standard necessarily.
But I'm guessing with you did it in 6.5 years.
I did, yeah. Yeah.
See, how did I guess that was going to happen? And so you decided from an early point then that you want to do a PhD as well.
Yeah. I was always intrigued by research and, being able to kind of advance medicine and answer questions that come up in clinical practice, and, using those investigations and studies to improve clinical practice.
Mm-hmm. And what did your topic for your dissertation? What did you choose to focus on?
I actually worked, which kind of I guess foreshadowed my future career choices, so to speak, in specialties. I was actually primarily looking at process improvement, quality improvement processes surrounding polytrauma care. So as part of my PhD, I spent an entire year attending every single what would be a trauma alert activation at our main university hospital, and collecting live data, real-time data that are then used for my data analyses. That was certainly an interesting year because I was on call for an entire year, 24/7, to come in for every single trauma activation and collect the data. But it also really, got us a really high quality data set because none of it was retrospective. It was all collected by a trained observer in real time, and that made for a really good data set.
Wow. Was it busy like our trauma center here? I mean, were you coming in every day?
Yeah, most of the time I would, come in once or twice during the day, and then again, at 3 o'clock in the morning or something like that. Yeah.
It's a rough year. Wow. Okay. The side question is, I don't know when you sleep, Torben. It's really impressive.
Yeah, luckily I do not need a lot of sleep. I can exist, quote unquote, quite well on 3 to 4 hours of sleep. So I think that's just a genetic blessing or something like that.
Yeah, I've heard the term like super sleeper. Is that a thing? Is that what the term is, or something like that?
Yeah, I've read something about that as well.
Yeah.
I've never really, spent too much time thinking about it, but yeah.
Amazing. Yeah. Okay. So you do this, you get your degree. So you become, you finish medical school, you finish your PhD, and did you come here directly after to the
I actually started for a short time. So I graduated medical school in October, shortly after I graduated with the PhD. And then I spent the time between then and the beginning of residency the following July as an anesthesiology resident at one of the university hospitals in my area. And I did that because in Germany, emergency medicine, at least the resuscitation part of emergency medicine, is part of anesthesiology. Emergency medicine is not a specialty in Germany, at least at that time didn't used to be one. And now sort of is. And that was how I spent the time, so to speak, to kind of to fill that gap, bridge that gap. And then in July the following year, I started my residency.
And so was the plan always to come to the U.S. just because of the emergency medicine training and the residencies available?
It was sort of a mix of different things between after high school. So in Germany at that time still had mandatory military or civil service. I did what's called civil service as a paramedic. I trained as an EMT when I was 15 years old and did a lot during high school as an EMT. And then as soon as I graduated from high school, I spent that year doing that civil service as a paramedic, finished my paramedic training, and then worked as a paramedic. And so I'd always been interested in emergency medicine, resuscitative medicine in particular. But after that year, one of my best friends and I from high school traveled through the US, Costa Rica, and Ecuador for a couple of months. And I really enjoyed that experience. And then later during a break in medical school in 2006, I actually spent some time in Florida, doing ride-alongs with a number of different EMS agencies. Primarily, I think it was Orlando, Miami Beach, and Key West.
Really?
I was riding along with some EMS agencies. And I've always enjoyed traveling, when as a family when we were young, we usually did a lot of travel. And so kind of exploring the world had always been a theme throughout my life. And so it was kind of this curiosity and having really enjoyed my time visiting in the US and the idea of doing emergency medicine as a dedicated specialty that made me look into coming to the US for residency.
Wow, that makes a lot of sense. That's really neat. And I guess that you kind of foreshadowed how you ended up in Florida having that experiences at a young age here with EMS. That's really neat. Wow. So you did the residency was in Michigan as well as your first of your fellowships. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah. I did my residency at the University of Michigan. And back then there was a very brief time period where 4-year residency programs were able to essentially allow you to do a fellowship during residency. That got shut down fairly quickly. I think the 3-year programs, I think, didn't like it, and ACGME got involved and so on. But it was like a 1 or 2 year time frame, and I got lucky to be able to do my ultrasound fellowship through that pathway. So I spent 4 years in Ann Arbor at the University of Michigan for my residency, which was an interesting experience because the residency there is sort of set up. You have the university hospital, which is kind of like UF here. And then you have a community hospital that's affiliated with the university, but through a different health system, actually. But for the residency, it was combined. And that was sort of like a North Florida equivalent.
Okay.
And then you had a county hospital in Flint, Michigan, which, at that point had the highest per capita murder rate in the United States, a real kind of knife and gun club hospital, so to speak. And so we got some kind of interesting, almost like inner city, a lot of penetrating trauma and so on experience there. So it was definitely a good residency experience.
Incredible. Yeah, I remember I went to a 4-year program as well. I remember like some residents could push and get 800 or more scans in that 4 years. And I was talking to Dr. Deportu recently, and he said I think the requirement is something like 1,100 or 1,200 now currently. So I could see how that could be done in a 4-year if you've prioritized it, and
Exactly,
and they allowed it at that point. So
right.
Wow, very nice, very cool. And then, so you didn't start practicing right then and there, correct? You went and did another fellowship in Pittsburgh?
Yeah,
At
exactly.
the University of Pitt?
Yeah, I went to Pitt, University of Pittsburgh, and did a critical care fellowship there. And Pittsburgh is the oldest program in the country for critical care fellowship training. We were like, the fellowship class is like 30 people or so. I mean, it's like bigger than most residencies.
Holy cow. Yeah, that's crazy.
And at that time, there's different pathways for emergency medicine to do critical care medicine. There's a pathway through anesthesiology, through surgery, through internal medicine, and through neurology in terms of the board certification pathway. I did mine through internal medicine because that's how Pitt has their emergency medicine spots set up. And at that time, there was a requirement to do several months in the medical ICU was kind of required. And I was able to get a lot of these months done during residency already, which gave me a lot of extra time during my second year, because I was able to essentially fulfill the fellowship requirements during the first year. And that allowed me to spend my second year doing their clinical research and ECMO fellowship as well. So I spent most of my second year working in the cardiothoracic ICU, learning about ECMO, and then doing several research projects as well.
Wow, that's where that came from. I was wondering about that because ECMO isn't part of every single critical care fellowship by any means, correct?
No, you need to have a hospital that does ECMO and that does a lot of ECMO to make it part of the fellowship. ECMO has seen a tremendous growth in the last few years. The H1N1 pandemic really brought it back for the first time for adults. Prior to that, it was essentially pediatric care intervention. And then COVID accelerated it even more, and then ECPR and these sort of things. And now even your community hospitals are starting to do ECMO. But back then, it used to be a lot more restricted to like really kind of large academic centers at that time. There are very few kind of dedicated ECMO fellowships around the country. So obviously it's not ACGME or anything like that.
Oh, I see. Okay. So you're very fortunate to be at such an esteemed place that like Pitt that had that program and then the reputation and the legacy. So that's really neat. And so then from there, you finished at University of Pittsburgh, and then did you come right to Florida then at that point?
Yeah, I came to UF at that point for my EMS fellowship. That at that point was already sort of with kind of a half vision of staying on as faculty. Those were, some of the discussions I had during the fellowship application process with the then chair and some other faculty and so on. That played a role in me not staying at Pitt for my EMS fellowship, which had been the plan originally, but moving down to Florida.
I see. Wow. So, were we on your map because of your time doing EMS when you were younger here in Florida, or did you?
Yeah, that certainly played a role in it, I would say, for sure.
Yeah. It's interesting to hear because we have so many different faculty that have come from throughout the country. Lars from New York and Maldonado, and just how Florida got on their map is always so interesting to me. But you somehow you landed here, and we're so lucky to have you. And so you came here and you did your EMS fellowship, but then also you got your MBA here, correct?
So I actually did my MBA. That was last year, so 2023, and I
Oh,
did
that's
not get it at
recent.
UF. Yeah, I did not get it at
Oh,
UF.
oh,
I got it at the University of Tennessee, Knoxville, which
okay.
offers a dedicated physician executive MBA program.
Oh, that's nice.
And it's very kind of focused on medicine and physician leadership, which was something that's important to me to really kind of maximize the time and resources spent on going through that program.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I'm sure it'd be tough to. Yeah, I know Marsha Lewis did her MBA here, but you're. So I'm guessing you were with all physicians then in your program.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah,
it makes
yeah.
wow, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, so you come here and then and obviously you've been just flourishing and how did you get the ECPR program off the ground and of course you started I don't know if you were the first to do the Global Health Fellowship, but how did where did you prioritize your time here and I don't know, how did you approach being a faculty member and starting to grow your I guess your impact here?
Yeah, one of the reasons I was interested in staying on as faculty here is because the department had or supported my vision of practicing in those different areas. And, when I was a resident or fellow, and I would tell people about my fellowships plan, everybody would be like, that sounds interesting, but you're never going to be able to practice all of them. And in fact, I remember one of my first visits here. Actually, part of the interview, one person asked me for fellowship. One person asked me, well, it's great you did the critical care fellowship, but now you're doing EMS. You're never going to be practicing critical care anymore. And I was like, no, that's the whole idea. I want to be able to bridge critical care, in acute care, outside of defined walls or areas, and I really want to be able to bridge and provide care from the pre-hospital environment, through the emergency department, through the intensive care units, the entire continuum of critical illness. And so the department supported that vision and understood that vision in the first place, because as I said, most people would just kind of be shaking their heads and be like, this is not practical, this is not realistic. And then on top of that, as part of me becoming faculty here, one of the things I was asked to do is to build a global health fellowship and a global health program. And I've been doing global health even since my days as a paramedic. My first global health deployment, so to speak, was in 2003, I believe, for medical work internationally. And so I had kind of continued to do that throughout residency, fellowship, had built connections with hospitals in Haiti and Ghana and so on, and was able to kind of come in and say, let me, turn this into formal partnerships with UF and enable experiences for fellows, trainees, and so on. And so that's how the global health part came into the mix.
I'd love to hear more. Yeah, about. I mean, you talked about your passion for resuscitation and critical care, and then the pre-hospital to the. Where did you get the bug to do global health? And I don't know where. I guess what's that? I don't know that seed where you just have this great empathy for the other, or just this desire to be so helpful to people in need. Where does that come from for
I
you?
would say, global health really fascinated me because I have a very strong passion for health equity and bringing medical care, good medical care, to everyone, not only people living in high income countries. But it's very important to look at global health, the kind of white savior approach, the quote unquote. I always tell the fellows the word mission trip is a forbidden word in this fellowship because, it is a lot about, somebody going somewhere to help, and then most of the time they post pictures that they never got consent for, and those sort of things. And so the vision to build this program was one that is built on the foundation of a true partnership on kind of an even eye level, and that's why we have partners from our international partners come to UF. We had, multiple visitors from Ghana. Most recently, we had a visitor in January here for a month. We had visitors from Haiti before, and really having this as a bi-directional partnership where we are getting something out of, working in, let's say, Haiti or Ghana, and they're getting something out of our partnership, coming to visit here, and each other complementing each other's, skills and resources, and so on. Our trainees, be it students, be it residents, be it fellows, they learn a tremendous amount when they are in Haiti, when they are in Ghana, and those sort of experiences. And we hope to, give back in equal amounts to help train people there, to provide help with resources, equipment, and these sort of things. But the decolonizing global health is definitely a very important movement, and even that term has some negative connotations. But that is something that is quite important to me, and that's the foundation that this program is built on as well. So I think it's been a passion to be able to work in global health settings, to help raise the bar of especially kind of resuscitative medicine, but it's been equally rewarding to be able to learn from our partners, and to learn in all areas: research, education, and clinical experience. There's a great deal of things that I've learned from my colleagues in Haiti and Ghana, who are with resource limitations, have come up with great ways of providing excellent patient care, where here we'd be kind of scratching our heads and be calling somebody for help, and I learned things where I was like, hey, I can just kind of turn this into that and make it happen, and so it's definitely a two-way street and not a one-way street.
Oh, absolutely. I tuned into just, I don't know, maybe was it 6 months ago, when there was the lectured residency from the gentleman from Ghana, where
Dr. Nso.
Yeah, right. It was fascinating. So I think it's wonderful that you have that equal partnership where they come here, they teach us, they teach our residents, they teach our fellows, they teach our faculty. I think that's incredible. And so, yeah, how did you initially get, make the connection in Ghana and in Haiti? Where did those connect? Did they come through acquaintances you had, or how did you initially reach out or establish your programs there? Your partnerships there?
Yeah, that was through faculty at the University of Michigan that had existing relationships there. And then I continued, after finishing residency, to work with them, not with the faculty, but with the partners in Haiti and Ghana during my fellowship. And then that turned into this collaboration after becoming faculty here. And then in Ghana in particular, it used to be partnership with one hospital, and is now expanded into, I think, over half a dozen partners in Ghana, all with formal agreements at the university level that involve kind of senior university leadership. And these partnerships essentially were built on the foundation that emergency medicine initially existed at only one hospital, one residency program in Ghana, which is the one that we were collaborating with, and that expanded. The people who trained there went to other hospitals afterwards once they became attendings, and so they knew me from back in the day, and then asked, could we build a similar program, a similar partnership at my new hospital? And that's how most of these partnerships have evolved and developed.
Wow, that's incredible. Can you tell me about what you said? You're the first of one hospital and then multiple. Are you doing stuff everywhere from in the ICUs, critical care, all the way to pre-hospital there as well?
The majority of the work is focused on emergency medicine and global health, point of care ultrasound training. Mm-hmm. We do work with ICUs at some of our partner hospitals as well, and then one of our most valued partnerships is with the National Ambulance Service of Ghana. So pre-hospital work, and that is there is a MotoMeds project we'll probably talk about later on. But there's also training that we do for their paramedics paramedics or EMTs. Paramedic level training is not available in Ghana as of now, so we actually have supported some senior officers within the Ghana National Ambulance Service, which is a paramilitary organization, to come to Gainesville and spend 2 to 3 years here in Gainesville training as a paramedic through my not-for-profit organization that is, supporting them financially to be able to do that. Which is called Global Health Coalition. And that organization, we've been able to support them coming here, training as a paramedic, and then going back to Ghana to help build a paramedic training program there. And in fact, our first graduate who went back in December after training as a paramedic here and then working for a little over a year at Alachua County Fire Rescue, he's now back there and he is overseeing quality assurance for the entire country.
Wow.
He is also building an ALS intercept service because as of now, they provide primarily kind of BLS plus care, but he is in the process right now to develop an ALS intercept service by the paramedics that have been trained in the U.S. And so that is one of the partnerships that kind of has spiraled off, not directly with U.S., but through that not-for-profit organization here, working with the Ghana National Ambulance Service.
That is
the MotoMeds project.
That is so neat. Is there another any more future paramedics coming to do this? Or
Yeah, we have.
Is there some right now?
Yeah, we have one here right now. Alpha to Go is his name. He he is in his third semester now of paramedic school.
Wow.
So he's been really enjoying his time, and we've luckily been able to kind of keep up with donations to keep him in the program, which is always a bit of a struggle. But that is definitely something that we're excited about to continue to have this program exist over multiple kind of generations of students.
That's incredible. So at any given point, he could be on a crew and come into the ER.
Exactly.
Yeah. I'll keep my eyes. What is his name?
Alfred to Go.
Alfred. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Wow. That's great. I can't wait to meet him when he comes into the ER. Wow. That's neat. So that's wow. So that's the program. And then you alluded to MotoMeds and this is how did you even get involved with it? I mean, obviously there's a pre-hospital component, but there's a big pediatric component. Do you have tell me more about the MotoMeds? I think I'd love to hear about this program.
Yeah, MotoMeds is a pediatric nighttime telemedicine and medication delivery service that was first started by my colleague Eric Nelson in pediatrics in Haiti. And then was probably early 2020, one of my colleagues in internal medicine who was doing global health reached out to me and said, I've got this I think first year medical student at that point who is really interested in global health and who wants to do an MD PhD, and she wants to meet with you. Is that something you'd be interested in? I met with her. Her name was Katie Flaherty, we talked about different programs and projects that we could do, and around the same time got in touch with Eric Nelson in pediatrics as well. And so as we talked about the program, one of the areas that came up is this is really something that could be quite impactful, not just in Haiti, but in other parts of the world. And there are certain diseases that are common in Haiti, but there are certain diseases that are common in other countries that are very rare in Haiti, such as malaria. Ghana has a very high incidence of malaria. It's still one of the number one causes of mortality of children in Ghana. And so we had this idea of implementing MotoMeds in another country with a very different setting, working with a government partner rather than a private partner, and so on. And that was the focus then of Katie Flaherty's PhD as well. This was a 4 or 5 year project essentially of getting the project off the ground. And then in late 2022, MotoMeds opened in Accra, the capital city of Ghana, in an urban slum, as you would call it, called Jamestown and Ushertown. one of the oldest areas of the capital city, and has operated every single night since November of 2022, providing care to children. And so essentially, what parents or guardians of sick children can do is they call our dedicated hotline. We do a telemedicine visit, where we screen them first for danger signs. We call it a pre-emergency service. The idea is to intervene before something such as diarrheal illness, vomiting, respiratory illness develops from something that could be treated at home to something that requires hospital level care or even mortality, or even leads to mortality. And so those parents or guardians call when a child gets sick, as long as there is no WHO-based so-called danger signs present. We do the telemedicine exam with them over the phone, and then send out a National Ambulance Service EMT that has received special training with us in pediatrics, out on a motorcycle along with a motorcycle taxi driver to that community where they perform an exam at the household, go through kind of a standardized history and physical, and then provide medications based on standing orders. They do test for malaria. They weigh the child. They check for malnutrition, all these things, and then provide antimalarials, antibiotics, fluids, oral rehydration solution, and all sorts of medications for common childhood illnesses that are main contributors to under 5 mortality in Ghana, and provided right there and then, with our goal being that we intervene, at 9 p.m. at night, 2 o'clock in the morning, where these illnesses, a respiratory illness, a diarrheal illness, malaria, can progress from kind of moderate to severe and life-threatening, and the idea is to intervene at that point and prevent this from happening. Which in Ghana, has, obviously it's a health of the child, but there is a lot of downstream consequences on an economical level for the entire family as well. It's often not safe to leave the home at night to seek care. The care that's available at night is a lot more limited. And then there is also if a child needs to be hospitalized, most of the expenses the family needs to pay out of pocket and needs to pay up front. It's very common in Ghana, even in adults, if you're critically ill in the hospital, you need to, you had a car accident, you were hit by a car, if your family needs to pay for your trauma CT scan up front, your family needs to pay for your intubation medications up front, and those sort of things. And so it's a huge financial impact if the child gets sick enough where it requires hospitalization. And then a lot of what is kind of nursing care or care provided by nurses in the United States is done by families there. And so the family has to stay with the child, and that is something that, if they are a trader on the street who's selling things on the street, for example, as a lot of the people in that community are, informal economy, as it's called, if they spending a week at the hospital with their child, that's a week where they're not generating an income. There is no sick leave or anything like that. And so the downstream consequences of avoiding a hospitalization in terms of a benefit to that family, and ultimately, the other children in that family who are getting, who otherwise wouldn't be getting any food on the table and these sort of things. It's tremendous. So
incredible.
It has sort of like these spiraling effects.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. And I know you're studying all of this, I'm sure, about all the downstream economic and health benefits. And of course, it's like, asthma seems to always flare up in the night and with a child. And then I'm guessing that there's burning of trash, or even, maybe cooking food and stuff over open fires that could flare, contribute to these breathing disorders and stuff. So
absolutely. Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Open fire.
Yes.
I remember when we first started the service, I was going out with the EMTs to a lot of calls to kind of provide on the job training, clinical training. And I remember this one call where there was a child with respiratory distress, kind of a pneumonia picture, and the family, they were selling a sort of bread that had to be cooked. And so there was this huge, thick black smoke in the middle of the night around in the backyard, in the back area of the house. And, we were all coughing and our eyes were tearing up and so on. And, that's the environment that child was in with his respiratory illness. So it's a tough environment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Wow. That is, wow. The impact of this, and it's no wonder that you got that grant. Which now that grant from the SAEM Foundation that expands the program. Correct? It's going to serve in more
Mhm.
neighborhoods and areas.
Exactly. So next
Yeah.
month, actually, we're gonna be there to expand the program into another community within Accra called Nima Mamobi.
Mm-hmm.
That is has a very different demographic. And then in January, we'll be expanding it into the very northern region of Ghana, in the city of Tamale, which is a even more underserved area of the country, and has a lot more malaria cases as well. So that's going to be a really exciting kind of proof of portability within Ghana. And our long-term vision and hope would be that this could turn into a national program. And so this grant is really crucial and critical in taking that next big step for MotoMeds and for the children that it serves.
Wow, this is so exciting for you and the fellowship and for the people of Ghana. This is such a neat thing. I'm sure you're excited, you're passionate, you're proud. I mean, this is really neat, Torben.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's a phenomenal team that we have supporting it. Katie really she lived in Ghana for a year for her PhD, and so that I think there are very few PhD students who can say that they lived in West Africa for
Yeah.
for a year during their PhD.
Yeah.
And we have our fellows who've contributed a lot. In fact, Mir Patel, our current fellow, really essentially took over now that Katie Flaherty is Dr. Katie Flaherty because she's graduated with a PhD. He's taken over the operational directorship role. We have Michael Matelier, who is a medical student currently doing an MPH as well, and actually used to be a scribe in our department several years ago,
Really?
who's working on the project.
Oh, that's so
And
cool.
then Beth Birchfield is our first global health track resident, and so come July of this year, she's going to be involved in the project as well.
Yeah, I heard that. That's wonderful that now you've expanded to include residents if need be. That's fantastic. Wow. Tell me about the culture of Ghana, the people, the music, the food. I mean, do you enjoy yourself? Is it only work there, or do you enjoy the spending time in the country?
No, I definitely enjoy spending
Yeah,
time in the country. I've been to Ghana, I don't know, 15 times or so now.
yeah,
In total, probably spent close to a year in Ghana. And It's a very safe country
yeah.
first of all. It is, you can kind of feel that despite economic challenges in the last few years, a lot of active progress and a young kind of population in that country really wanting to move forward and wanting to improve their lives and so on. You can feel that kind of sense amongst the population. The Ghanaian food is certainly something I think most of us look forward to every time we go back to Ghana. Certain types of foods there that are certainly very different from the foods that we have here. And it's always
Mhm.
interesting, when we have visitors from Ghana here, or we have the paramedic students here in Ghana, they
Mhm.
always have a bit of a hard time adjusting to the American diet.
Yeah.
Um, so it's definitely a different environment, but
Uh-huh.
we're not going there on vacation.
No, it's
Usually
true.
we do a lot of work,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
I remember when we rolled out MotoMeds initially in parallel during the day, we were doing ultrasound training. We were invited by the African Federation of Emergency Medicine to teach ultrasound as a pre-conference and post-conference course to the African Conference on Emergency Medicine in Ghana. That was in Ghana in that year.
Hmm.
And I remember, sleeping about 2 hours per night between running these different projects and being, out with MotoMeds at night and teaching ultrasound during the day. So it's definitely, a lot of work and exhausting
Hmm.
as well. But
Hmm.
the impact that we have makes it worth it.
It's unbelievable. Unbelievable. Have you been in the country when the Ghanaian Ghanaian national team football has played or no? I'm guessing that's the country shuts down for that at least, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
even like, I would say even the World Championship, European Championship, these sort of things is something that people really follow there, and you can see at like restaurants and so on that for the big games, everybody's like standing in front of the television and watching it and so on. It's definitely a big event there.
Yeah. And they're good. Ghana's always good in Africa Cup, World Cup. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So I have to switch gears a little bit. And personally, all right. So the talk around the office is everyone loves your new haircut, first of all. You seem to have you seem like you've done a makeover recently here. You look like 20 years younger. You got that very edgy. Where do you get your haircut? Because I think I need something like that.
The place is called MTG Barbers, and I've been cutting my hair myself actually for like 20 years of my life or so, and I thought it was time for a change.
You can afford it. Yes, you look very good. A bit young. It was just tell me about this. Like, yeah, the hair. Torben's haircut. We're like, whoa. So. And I see you're wearing a barbell shirt right now. So, do you have like a new fitness routine or something? You've gotten into a fitness stage of your life, or?
Yeah, sort of. Yeah. I like working out and try to squeeze it in most days, even when it's really busy or when you're just coming back from an ECPR cannulation or something like that. So that's definitely something that I enjoy doing a lot.
That's fantastic. Well, if you don't take care of yourself, you can't take care of others. If your health falters, it's important. It's crucial. So, I think it was JP was telling me, do you have a brother that's also in medicine? Is that correct?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And he said that this brother came and even lectured at UF at one point, or to the residents maybe, or.
Actually a couple of years ago he lectured. So he is his specialty is called microbiology, which is sort of like a mix of the kind of laboratory microbiology and clinical infectious diseases. And he's a department chair and a senior associate dean at a large university in Germany, running the department of microbiology and infectious diseases there. And he, a couple of years ago, when it was like my first or second year in Gainesville, he actually visited and gave a lecture to our infectious disease division as well. My brother and I are very close, and we worked together as paramedics back in the day and these sort of things, and have kind of a shared passion for medicine, even though the kind of particular area is different, but he does a lot of global health work as well, and so we definitely share the passion for global health.
Oh, that's wonderful. Have you done a project with him? Have you gone and done some of your global health work with your brother?
Yeah, we have. Yeah.
Oh,
actually, multiple projects. Yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful. Well, it's nice to have that complementary knowledge base too. I mean, you're bringing paramedic knowledge and pre-hospital and the critical care, but then to have that infectious disease knowledge that's priceless in a global health setting. So I'm sure you guys do. You help each other in such complementary ways. That's really neat.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, so if you actually had time off, which I know you probably never have off, how would you spend your time? If you have a couple hours off in an afternoon, you're going to take for yourself. I said you work out. What would you do, or where would you go? Is there a restaurant? Do you have a hobby? Not related to medicine.
Yeah, I like to have days off are pretty rare, but if I do have a day off and it's not filled with just catching up on life, so to speak, I like to go hiking, and that's something my fiance and I share as a passion as well, so we like to do that. Local places, and then if we have a little longer time off, we like to go to national parks and these sort of things. That's definitely a hobby and a passion. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. Getting outdoors, it just recharges, it just calms and centers, and that's wonderful.
Right.
And then I guess, I asked this, I kind of bring this up with everybody, and everyone loves I love the people of our department. Everyone, I think, loves our people, and I think that is a given. And is there anything else you think that makes our department unique, special? And maybe for you, it's what you told me already, that they offered you the opportunity to do something that maybe no one else believed you could do and incorporate into your career. Maybe that's why. I mean, tell me, what do you think?
Yeah, I think that is definitely a big piece of it is, really, and I think I would say it's probably not just unique to me, but I think our department is very good. It's part of the culture, I think, that's ingrained in the department, and that seems to exist in the department despite even, operational administrative changes and so on, that it's very good at, I think, supporting people's visions and desire to do things that are maybe not kind of stayed out of the box or on a predefined pathway, and certainly for me, allowing me to do this work between EMS, being an EMS medical director, global health, critical care, building the critical care division, building a section of global health, having the university's first MD PhD program student doing global health in our department, and these sort of things, and really kind of like being open to unique projects that sometimes sort of take you have to kind of take a leap of faith to engage in. And I think our department kind of believes in our faculty, being able to do that, and supports them in pursuing their passion and vision. And the ECPR program, for example, was a great example of that as well. That started October 2019. When I had or 2018 actually, I think, when I just started as faculty there. I told some people about it, got some support within the department to do that, and it took 5.5 years to get this approved, to ultimately go into place. A lot of different levels throughout the hospital, levels of leadership involved in that, resources and so on. But people believed in that, over this 5+ years time span, and supported it, despite, at times pushback and questions being asked and so on. And so I think this is like one of those projects, or one of those examples that there is support for doing unique things. There is support for doing things that are, kind of first in the state, as we are kind of with having a 24/7 ECPR program now. And that is something that I think is pretty unique about UF and the Department of Emergency Medicine in particular.
That's incredible. Well, Torben, I appreciate you coming on today, and thank you for your time and sharing your story, which is truly inspirational.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
That's all for this episode. Special thanks to our chair, Dr. Mary Patterson, for supporting this podcast, and to Dr. Giuliano Deportu for composing our theme music. I'm Michael Petrauskas. Be well.